Hello everyone, my name is Valsan Thampu. Now I live in Kerala, but till recently I was the principal of a college in Delhi, St. Stephen's College, which is known quite widely. All my life I was a teacher in higher education, which means that I spent all my active years among young people. I identified myself completely with them, lived with them, lived like them, lived for them for 40 long years. And that's because I have a deep inner commitment to young people, and also because I am in love with being young. Sigmund Freud, the father of modern psychology, said that the most fundamental duty of a human being is to keep the infant in him alive. I agree with him, but I would take a step forward and say that it is equally important for us to keep the young person alive in us as long as we live. Now, if you look at the world around us, look at nature, nature is in a process of continually renewing its own youth. That's why after millennia, millions of years, nature is still fresh and looks very young. And I believe that we need to learn this very precious and important lesson from nature. It's possible for us to take good care of our youth. Therefore, the question that I'm going to address in a series of messages, beginning with this, is this: how do we take good care of our youth? How do we stay young, not only in the mind but also in the spirit? The body, of course, will continue to feel the pressure of time and under its heat wither over a period of time. But even with respect to the body, if we try, we can preserve its freshness, its vitality, its youthfulness for a longer period of time, and this is widely known. I don't have to argue that. But what is not often reckoned is the fact that we can take care of the youthfulness of our mind, youthfulness of our soul, youthfulness of our being. And I believe that's extremely important because that's the truth of my own experience. So let's fix it very clearly. The purpose of this series of messages, addressed particularly to the youth of India, is to enable each one of us, first of all, to become conscious of a very basic duty to preserve the freshness and the vitality of our youth. As a starting point, let me say this: we must recognize the tremendous blessing of being young. As a person who is now more or less, in the evening of life, who in visible terms has left his youth behind, I can say one thing to you. I did not realize when I was young what a privilege it is to be young. And today I know, because as my youth declines, my body becomes a burden, and the longings of the soul cannot find expression. Whereas when I was young, my body had no weight. My enthusiasm was so limitless, and I could really push myself to any extent. So from my experience, I want to tell you that it's a great thing to be young, and there is nothing that compares with it. However, it is when we are young that we neglect our responsibility to take care of our youth. And that's my concern, and that's the reason why I'm doing this series. Now, youth is a period of transition. We were born, we were babies, we became toddlers, we became infants, and we became teenagers. Now, when we were infants and toddlers, others took care of us. we didn't have much of a problem, we didn't have much of a burden. Everything was laid out for us. There were people around us to sense our needs and to know what was good for us and to provide all of that to the best of their ability. So they cared for us. And we would not have been what we are but for being cared in this manner most affectionately, carefully, sensitively by our loved ones, our parents and our siblings, other relatives in the house. But now that's over. We have now, as young people, moved into a zone where we have to take care for ourselves. So we can understand being young primarily, to begin with, as an experience of transition from being cared for to being responsible for one's own life and the duty to care for oneself. So that duty has to be clearly understood. And the quality of our life all the way, right up to the end of our life and our journey on this earth, depends on how well we take care of our youth. So during this period of transition, it's important for us to know that we are the stewards, the responsible people for ourselves. We cannot leave that to anybody else. Now, the blessings of youth remain hidden to us. And because they remain hidden to us, we fail to appreciate. Though they remain hidden, we are using it all the time. Like our heart is hidden, but we are using it all the time. We're able to do anything at all because we have a heart working efficiently, extremely efficiently all the time. So the challenge often is to become conscious of what is not so evident and visible, and to assume responsibilities also for that. So youth, I believe, is a period in which we lay the foundation for the whole of our life, and on this foundation we build our personality. Now in modern times, this is a huge concept. It's a very exciting concept. I hear hundreds and hundreds of talks and workshops, seminars on personality development. And there are all kinds of notions about personality. Let me make one thing very clear to you. Very often the idea of personality that I come across in discussions on the subject and programs based on the subject is that personality is some kind of an outward appearance. And of course, I've heard people point out that the word personality is derived from the Latin word persona, which actually means a mask. So personality is what you put on for the consumption of others. Apparently, it does not have a reference to what is within you. I want to tell you that this is a very dangerous and self-defeating idea of personality. Just as I said, we need to build foundations, and we know that as far as buildings are concerned, foundations remain hidden. That hidden foundation is perhaps the most crucial thing, and not the paint on the wall or the furniture that you put inside your house. If the foundations are not strong and adequate, the house will collapse and you will not be able to live in your house in confidence and peace. The same thing applies to our personality. Youth is the time we build the foundation for our personality. And if that foundation is not built strongly, wisely, then the very mansion of our life and personality will collapse. So this is exactly our concern. How do we build the foundation for our life? So very quickly, we have seen that we have a duty to keep the youth in us, or the youthfulness in us, alive. In order to do that, we have to understand the incomparable blessing of being young. Third, we found that being young means being in a period of transition. And fourth, we found that being in transition means that instead of being cared for by others and taken care of by others, from now onwards, we begin to take care of ourselves. And in order to take care of ourselves, we must understand that taking care is nothing but building on our personal worth. You will never care for anything which you don't value. What has no worth for you, you will throw away. And unfortunately, I have seen many, many young people in my 40 years of intimate involvement with them as a teacher and as a mentor to young people. Many, many young people throwing away their life as though it is mere garbage. Now, this is a tragedy which must be avoided. When I say take care of your youth, I mean take care of your life in such a way that all the wonderful potentialities latent in you, hidden in you, will slowly emerge, come to light, and you become a person who is loved, respected, and cherished by others, and you become, to use the old-fashioned word, you become a blessing on others. So, my friends, that's where we are, and we continue our thoughts in the next session. Thank you very much and have a great day. Hello, good morning. Thank you for coming back to the session on taking care of our life while we are young. I'm reminded of a couple of lines from Wordsworth, the English poet, who, recalling the excitement of the days of the French Revolution, wrote like this: "Blessed was in those days to have been alive, but to be young was very heaven." I've always been captivated by this last expression, but to be young is very heaven. In our last unit, we tried to look at this particular aspect, and I hope you recollect what we have said there. And today, I would like us to think of something related but slightly different. I said in the last unit that youth is a period of great excitement, great possibilities. In this unit, I want to think with you on the fact that youth is also a period of great vulnerability. We could get into serious trouble, we could do serious harm to our souls, unknowingly, without wanting to do so, if we are not careful. As a rule, whatever is potent, whatever is good, whatever is beautiful, is also capable of tragic decay. Small resources bring small problems, but mighty resources bring mighty problems. Since the physical, emotional, intellectual resources available to us in youth are substantial and exciting, we also have to be careful to be alert custodians of our youth and its possibilities. Now, what makes our youth so vulnerable is the fact that during this period of time, first of all, we are greatly excited, which is a good thing. We want to go in, try out, and find what it is like for ourselves firsthand, rather than go by anybody's impression, which is also good. We, at the same time, even as we say that I want to understand life firsthand, are most of the time, while we are young, influenced by others. In fact, an English author by the name Oscar Wilde said that, and this is not only true of youth, but it's also true of others. He says, we are other people, meaning we are not leading our own life. Our ideas are borrowed from others. Our passions and preferences are borrowed from others. Our likes and dislikes, our dreams, all the things that we talk so strongly about are in truth not really our own. It is not something that we have actually experienced firsthand and adopted. We simply have borrowed it. And this is what I mean by being impressionable. It's a very loaded word. I'm sure you know this. Being impressionable has two aspects. One is that you are open to what the world around has to offer you, which is a good thing, as I said. But what is not so good about being impressionable is being thus open but without the strength of discernment. Now, discernment is a kind of filter. It decides what should come into you and what should not. It decides what is good for you and enables you to accept it. And it also decides what's harmful for you and encourages you to reject it. Now, without this kind, it's like a door to our house. We have a door. We open the door to desirable visitors. We shut the door, as we must, against dangerous elements. For example, if a rabid dog is coming, and there is no point in keeping your door open. So likewise, it's important for us as young people in the process of taking care of our youth to cultivate discernment. It's a very important word. It's a very useful word. It's a very accurate word. There's no other word that can substitute this word as far as this context is concerned. By the way, I must tell you as an aside that in order to think clearly, you must develop the habit and the discipline of using words precisely, because words determine the quality of your thoughts and vice versa. So, in the period of our youthfulness, it's important for us to develop discernment. Now, the question is this: how do we exercise our discernment? How do you know whether this is right or that is right? For example, let me be precise. How do we decide whether drinking alcohol is good for me or not good for me? How do we decide whether smoking is good for me or not good for me? How do we decide whether getting addicted to the net, for example, or certain sites on the net is good for me or bad for me? I mean, there is an old saying that there is nothing inherently good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Now, I believe that that's a dilution of a principle. Certain things are inherently bad. Poison is inherently bad. But there are certain intermediary levels when the danger of something is hidden. In the case of poison, it is immediate, it is manifest. In the case of fire, it is immediate and manifest. You touch fire and immediately your finger burns, and you pull away your finger because you know that it's not good for you. But there are certain things in life where consequences are delayed. For example, you don't develop lung cancer the moment you take a pull on the cigarette. You don't. But if you smoke cigarette for 15 to 20 years, you will develop lung cancer. You don't develop liver cirrhosis the moment you drink a peg of scotch or whatever. But if you drink and drink continuously, over a period of time, you will develop liver cirrhosis. So, from experience, long-term experience, you know that certain things are good and certain things are bad. Now, again, even long-term experience is not enough. This long-term experience must be conjoined with or seen together with an important goal in life. So what is the most important thing for young people, in my opinion, my experience over a long period of time, as I told you, is to be clear about where I am headed. Where do I want to reach? What is the goal of my life? If you don't have this clear understanding, you will only drift from day to day. Each day comes and goes, the next day comes and goes, and you do not know what it is all about. And you say, oh, well, what is life after all? It is nothing but a drift of routine events that do not add up to anything. No, life is not like that. Life is a great excitement. That's my own story, my own experience. It's a great adventure. But it became an adventure because somehow it became possible for me to look at a distant goal, a very exciting goal, and to live daily as someone who pursues that goal. And with reference to that glorious distant goal, it was possible for me to decide, for example, that I should not drink, or that I should not smoke, or for that matter even that I should not waste my intellectual energies in pointless talkativeness. Many people don't realize how much energies are wasted through mere meaningless babbling, prattling. The technical word for this is talkativeness. That is saying a lot of things amounting to nothing. It's a mindless waste of our intellectual and even physical energies. So all these things became very clear to me only because I was like a pilgrim moving in a well-defined direction, and with reference to that direction, certain things were acceptable, certain things were not acceptable. What we accept and what we reject together define what kind of quality of life we lead, both as young people and later on as adults and elderly people. So one very crucial, shaping, important aspect of taking care of our youth is to develop a sense of purpose in life. There is nothing in nature that exists without a purpose. This blade of grass, this leaf, this tiny leaf, this tree standing there, the big tree over there, the rain, the sun, the moon, the stars, the creatures, the birds, everything has a purpose. We may not see the purpose immediately, but there is a purpose. How can it be that human beings, who are the greatest of all creation, do not have and need not have a purpose? So therefore, my very first request to young people who are interested in developing their personality in a wonderful manner, and if you do that, this will be the most fantastic achievement of a lifetime, and you will be able to respect yourself in addition to being loved, cherished and respected by others. To develop a sense of purpose and also to shape, plan and exercise, use each day as a step taken in that direction. Let me illustrate and I'll stop. You go to your classes every day. With what understanding, with what sense of purpose do you enter your classroom? There are many young people who enter a classroom because it is compulsory. They do so most grudgingly, unhappily. They don't look excited. That need not be the case with you. You can enter your classroom with great excitement if you know that what's happening in the classroom will help you to take that small little step towards reaching your destination. Now, if you have that attitude, even the small pedestrian things that happen in the classroom will make a lot of sense. You will never be bored in the classroom, and you will never unnecessarily criticize your teachers. So very often, when we blame others for not doing this or not doing that, when we blame others for not being inspiring enough, the fact of the matter is that we are not purposive enough. And the moment we acquire a clear sense of purpose in life, everything in life becomes very colorful, full of aliveness, very exciting, meaningful, and our day-to-day life gets transformed. That is when life becomes a wonderful, meaningful, glorious experience day to day, every day of our life. And this is possible more when we are young than when we are old. Tiny children, infants cannot really experience this in a very conscious manner. Elderly people may be conscious, but their physical structures don't respond to it as readily as our young bodies do. Therefore, this is a time that you can actually sense, imbibe and celebrate the goodness, the greatness and the aliveness of life. And that's a mark of a person who is taking good care of his youthfulness. See you next time. Hello, welcome back to the series Taking Care of Our Youth. In the first unit, I had said that in order to take care of our youth, we must remember and respect our worth. In this context, to begin with, let me make a reference to a pattern that's found all over the world in every human being. I say this so that we can be aware of it and thereby avoid this unhelpful pattern. The pattern is this: human nature makes us neglect what we have and complain about what we don't have. Most people who grumble, almost everyone who grumbles, is entirely focused on what he or she does not have. And in this process completely forgets the fact there are great many things he or she has which can be developed, and if developed, their life will be transformed. Now, an important principle I have experienced in my own life, and one day I'll tell you my life story as well, is that the path to great things is not through great things. Life does not begin with big and great things. Life begins with very small things. The journey of our life began with small steps, uncertain steps. We were toddlers. We struggled to walk. We took small steps. And those small steps, taken then in earnestness and perseverance, enable us today to run, to leap, to reach heights. And that's the principle of life. So, one important principle in taking care of ourselves, in building the foundation of our life, is to recognize the great potentials hidden even in the smallest things that come our way, or smallest opportunities and facilities we are given. I studied in a small school, in a primary school, where in my classroom of 40 students, we had only 2 benches. And the 2 benches together had only 3 legs. The second bench did not have both legs. So that part of it, the legless part, was perched on the next bench. But what happened in the classroom was something different. I grew and I developed. I did not stay stuck in that classroom. I went on to higher and higher and higher things, and it took me all over the world. So the first thing to do if you are creative in taking care of yourself is to realize that even small things can be stepping stones to great possibilities, exciting possibilities. An English poet called William Blake once said that a great man is one who sees the universe in a particle of sand. It bears repetition. Who is a great man? A great man is one who has the ability to see the whole universe in a particle of sand. And I have always held that very close to my heart as the shaping principle of my life. So what does it mean? It means only one thing, that what is important is not what is available to us, but what we make of it, the possibilities that we see in each one of those small things, and the passion and the perseverance with which we work at these things, so that a particle of sand begins to be like the universe itself. That said, I want to now go forward and say that developing ourselves must now be understood. How do we develop ourselves? Now, very often we use words without really entering into the meaning of these critical, crucial words. In order to really go about the business of developing ourselves, we must understand what development is. Now, development, as I understand it, is always a harmony of various dimensions. If a country is to develop, 1,000,000 things have to work together. And where those constituent elements, those parts do not work together, the development of a country will be impeded. The development of a small effort anywhere. Look at a football game, look at cricket. Many people are working together, and they are working together according to certain set principles and a discipline. So that's how things happen. Now that's true therefore of our growth. Anything, let me put it this way, the best way to understand this is, anything which is dynamic will involve multiple factors, multiple dimensions. By dynamic, I mean something that does not remain where it is. For example, that piece of stone is not dynamic, it is inert. It will only stay where it is put. It has no dynamism, therefore it doesn't need anything else. If you think of anything which is dynamic, for example, I have 2 hands. Without both hands, I cannot work. And my hands work because there are hundreds and thousands of other things working behind my hands. And I'm able to stand because there is the support I get from gravitational force. I can plant my feet on the ground. The earth supports me. There's a partnership between me and the earth in my standing, my walking. That's how it is. Now, if you think of your personality, the person that you are, the human being that you are, and of developing it, you must immediately realize, and I do realize, and I have done this all my life, that I am a confluence of a harmony of at least 3 dimensions. The body is number 1, which is visible, you can see it. The mind, which through education we try to develop, but that's not the only purpose of education. We are not only a body and a mind, we are also a soul, a spirit. So if you think of the whole person, the complete person, you are the fullness of these 3 dimensions. So developing yourself actually means developing all these 3 dimensions in harmony and together. If you neglect one of the 3 dimensions and concentrate on the other 2 with all the strength and passion and enthusiasm you're capable of, you're still not developing. To give you an illustration, if I have 2 hands and only one hand grows and the other does not grow, and my right hand is now 6 feet long, it doesn't help me. Actually, it cripples me. So development is a harmonious process, and it involves equally all dimensions, the body, the mind, and the spirit. Now, if you really think of the various scattered traditions of thought, you will see this very clearly. For example, in every spiritual tradition, I've come across an emphasis on developing the physical aspect, the body. Take care of your body. For example, in the Bible it is written that the body is the temple of the soul. In other words, if you don't take good care of your body and the body does not grow and develop as it should, then it will be a prison for your mind, a prison for your soul, and you are miserable. This is why, for example, those who abuse their body through substance abuses like alcohol, tobacco, or drugs or whatever, they are unhappy people. I have worked a lot in this field. From 1989 to 1995, I worked in the field of HIV/AIDS, and I'll talk more